Okay, so yeah, before or after a large storm would be great. But even tides, big tides can cause erosion if it's like a really high, like what they call it, like the supermoon tides happened the week before Dorian came, and it almost looked like this, even though it was just like normal weather and a big tide. So that's kind of my favorite topic. Um, Obviously, downside is that we have to go down to the beach somewhere. It's not really that.
That's such a
downside.
Sorry.
Yeah. So then the second is kind of similar, but it's more with farms and kind of seeing maybe different farming techniques. This is kind of a problem that a lot of farmers are trying to address with improving the way that they drain their fields or using cover crops and no-tills, kind of a thing that for the past like 15 years or so has gotten pretty popular. And so we can look at a variety of different types of farms, obviously they're all over the place here, and see what agricultural practices are better or worse for erosion. And it has some significant downstream effects too, like eutrophication and water bodies, like the Gulf of Mexico is a giant dead zone, largely just because of runoff and erosion of the nutrients from the soil going down into water. And also, we could look at different types of soils which are more prone to erosion, or maybe which like different cover crops might work better in certain types of soil. But one of the challenges I think is with you have to do it in the right time of the season because if the crop's real thick, like 6 feet of corn is probably going to be tough to put through. Or even some crops like corn has a lot of the chopped up chaff after they harvest it. So that can be a pretty thick mat that just covers everything. But I think it would be pretty good, and it's obviously something that's a big deal right now, and a lot of farmers are trying to mitigate it. So then the third one is back to the beach, and it has to do more with the plants than with the beach itself. This is a picture of the sea oats. They're on the east coast, at least in the U.S., one of the main dune grasses, and they just fold together all the sand. And the wind blows the sand around, the grasses and other plants catch it and hold it in the shape of dunes. So some places where coastal management and development wasn't the best in the past have totally lost their dune ridge, which is really dangerous for storms and stuff. They have no protection. And also the beach can't use the dunes as sort of like a bank of sand that will help naturally replenish the beach, and then the dunes will eventually get sand blown back to them. So that whole like sediment budget can get thrown off. So when they do nourishment projects, a lot of times they'll put in those like fences. I'm sure you've probably seen them on the beach. They're just designed to trap sand in the wind. But eventually the plants will take over. So you can track how quickly that takes, how long that takes, and maybe see how the dune growth changes as the plant starts to take over from the fences. And yeah, so that's that one. And the fourth is subaquatic vegetation. So this is something that I know the Maryland state government has used manned airplanes to do this for mapping their Chesapeake Bay subaquatic vegetation. It's pretty important for water quality. It can kind of like a filter, like a sponge for the water quality, both in terms of like sediment, kind of trapping the sediment in the vegetation and it will settle out there, and also for chemicals. They can really soak up a lot of pollution. And so there's also some invasive species like this picture, I think is Eudima, which is a benthic diatom. It's really tiny single-celled organism, but they form long chains. And it's kind of unclear if they're invasive or not. But they take on invasive properties and they can cover like huge mats over the riverbed. So this is a stream in Virginia I found. I think this is it, and it isn't supposed to have this in it. So I need to talk to some biologists about that and see if it is. But yeah, hydrilla is another big one that can totally choke out rivers and lakes, stuff like that. So there's a lot of applications, including locally, that you could not have to drive, just be paid to fly around. Then the last one has to do with road surfaces, kind of departing from the like nature area. So basically just using it to monitor road surface. I think it would be a great machine learning application for identifying, classifying potholes or ruts, stuff like that. Also, the thing that Jim was talking about with the road centering and the landslides would be really useful. Obviously, everyone uses roads all the time and they're everywhere. So this is something that could have a pretty wide reach, I think. And I don't know that much about railroads and bridges and stuff, but I think you might be able to apply something similar to other forms of infrastructure as well. So,
good.
Yeah, those are my 5 pitches.
Right. Feedback? Sam, you want to start off?
Sounds good. I think it's all pretty interesting. We were talking about the road surface quality yesterday. I think that's kind of cool. I think there's a lot you can do with it. I think there is some research, like I've heard, like in the news, like people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you it might be like a little difficult trying to like carve out like a corner for you to do it, but I think it's pretty interesting. Good machine learning application.
Yeah.
Plus, it's kind of like people have like an emotional attachment to potholes. I think so. Like someone reading the article might be like, yeah, I hate potholes. Then they'll think of like a pothole like on the road that they always hit every day to work. So. Interesting.
I thought the first one was interesting, especially about the super tides. We were talking about the first ones, and then we really need to see how, if like even during the summer, like how the large number of people would affect the dunes and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that is. So this is, if you look at this thing,
Yeah.
this is specifically so people don't walk on the dunes.
Yeah.
So some places will build bridges, but it is a pretty some of the areas where they don't have the bridges walking over are pretty prone to overwash because it's just a natural like low spot on the dunes.
It'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Oh, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. No. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I think even with the stuff that we were kind of talking about before with beach nourishment, like seeing, I don't know, the speed of degradation from beach nourishment. If it was like, all right, they've had this many nourishments in the past couple of years, like is each time they're doing it, is it lasting less and less time, or So yeah, I mean, I know that's a large problem with a lot of coastal areas in the United States. Yeah, and then the one with the vegetation monitoring, was that from UAB or?
Yeah, those are
okay. Yeah, I was just trying to think of like the temporal aspect of that, like how quickly the approaches happen, or if that's something that needs to be done. Like,
yeah, I was thinking that might be a bit too long. That would be a difficulty just waiting for grass to grow.
Also bad PR. But yeah, so I thought there was a lot of cool applications of this, and it's kind of hotbed news at the moment, I guess, in regards to beach erosion. And
yeah,
I'm partial to the roads one as well, because Well,
so I think the roads is really neat. I think personal interest wise, I like that one a lot from the standpoint that it's probably the most isolated from time constraints.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing.
But like the first 3, if I lump them together, which I realize are not, but like those are pretty cool. But I don't know time wise like questions that I think of with like the subaquatic vegetation are like cost of multispectral sensors, like is for a drone. Because multispectral, like I know there's good literature on like how to pull out those end members and identify it.
Right.
So that could be cool, but that might actually be that might be faster to see change because of like seasonal growth and how rapid it expands. And
Yeah.
like dunes, I don't know anything about. I don't know how long that takes to see it.
Yeah. One thing, especially with the Dynamo, that can really explode really fast. Yeah. Because part of the way diatoms reproduce is just by division, so you can get like that exponential explosion.
I think the ag erosion. So that's the significant stuff, like what you have the photo of.
Yeah.
So that normally occurs like right prior to planting. So they prep the field.
Right. The filling.
Yeah. Like so when it's right there. So I don't think as far as visibility through like tall crops, you're probably safe when you're looking for stuff like if you're looking for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that's when it's at risk. They've just prepped it. They're not using no-till for whatever reason. They get a heavy rain, it washes out. Like I used to watch the guy across the road. He'd bring a bulldozer in if he had time before he started putting plants in the ground. And then once it grows, the scale of the erosion is now silt. Like they're filling in ponds and things like that.
Yeah.
But you're not seeing. So if you're interested in that, I don't think you'd have a problem with getting through vegetation. And that would just be like an early spring or find a different crop. Like that might be flexible seasonal wise. They're all pretty
I think I talked to you about the first one yesterday.
Yeah.
And how like you have to maybe focus on one specific area at first. And I think that one is still the most interesting to me because like a lot of people go to beaches and stuff, so like they have, and like they're also important ecologically, so like you could have, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of what else I was going to say, but I think I talked about it.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the first one? I'll give you feedback on each one. Okay, so this one and I guess all of the coastal ones, I think it'd be interesting to look at again what data collection is being done just systematically. Because my guess is that like NOAA and other people are gathering piles of data and don't know what to do with it. So identifying what some of those data sources are and seeing what kinds of questions those can be, because flying all the UAV stuff yourself, you could target them, right? Like you could use the big data dump as a
target like some
first
location.
like and then go out and kind of fly
like supplement.
Which reminds me, sorry, NOAA actually does aerial flights after like disasters, and then they kind of do like persistent every once in a while flights to the coast.
Yeah.
So like last semester, me and my buddy were working on a project and we got like really high quality aerial like photogrammetry of hurricane that flew through Florida. I forgot. Some recent, some recent hurricane, but I think that'd be kind of a cool baseline to tap into.
Yeah.
Those are really neat data sets, and it's sad when they spend piles of money flying these things.
Flying their synthetic aperture radar jet around.
Yeah. So I think that would be interesting, just as kind of a next couple of weeks, just dig into the data sets and see what's out there. And it's got good value. Let's go to the next one. So the interesting topic here is like microterrain features.
Yes.
I mean, the erosion part is interesting, but sort of looking at landforms or whatever on a tinier scale, right? Imagining that that's like this. What's that?
Like it's a tiny Grand Canyon.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's interesting. The work that I've seen in this domain has been a little tentative, which doesn't mean that it can't be done. I've seen a couple of people try microterrain things on fields, and it hasn't worked out yet. So I'd be a little afraid that it would have a chance of not paying off. do the next one. I don't know as much about this one. I don't know
Okay.
how I would be able to help so much with that, but valuable.
Yeah.
This one, if you're really, if the growth can really happen as fast as you say, the catch would just be sort of getting in early, right? Because you know where it had been, but if you don't know, like watching one of these things develop might be interesting. I don't know enough about what the research questions would be in this domain, but you could dig a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's tractable. It's it's easy to fly in the sense that offshore stuff is you don't have to worry about people, right? Generally speaking, which is a bit of a limiter in other domains, right?
Yeah.
All of these you're pretty safe, like coasts. I mean, you'll everything's visible.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how this would play out. So you'll have to develop this one a little bit more for me to get a sense of how it would go.
Okay.
The next one, I agree. I think this is fun and interesting. I probably wouldn't try to fly it with a UAV though. I'd probably try to use like sensors mounted on cars. So
like
you've got a
the
LiDAR that you can strap on the front of a car. Drive
LiDAR
around.
is
that's a good
definitely.
idea.
We've got cameras that you can put on a car and photogrammetry. Sort
That'd
of
be
like
so much easier with like just dealing with towns and
totally.
Yeah, it's just fill up the tank of gas and drive around.
So,
yeah.
so there've been Esri has an interesting machine learning thing about like finding potholes with cameras. That would be its own kind of interesting domain. Like apart from the 3D stuff, which I think is the most interesting. Like that's LiDAR. Remind me, and I'll send you the link for the Esri machine learning potholes thing.
Okay.
That might give you some ideas on development. But yeah, that's my feedback there. Is that I'd use vehicle-mounted sensors. But I'm sure people would love it.
Yeah.
I think my guess is you're probably most interested in the coastal stuff.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go roads just because it's cool.
Yeah,
Somebody else can do it.
I am pretty interested in transportation in general.
Okay.
Like I don't know, like coastal, and then also like transportation networks and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I do like one thing I really like about the roads is that I wouldn't have to have such a time scale, or roll the dice with weather.
Right.
As much.
Cool. Very nice. All right.
Your stuff is on here, right?
Yeah.
Imagine, so with the roads, you think like years from now, or who knows, maybe it'll be next year, but all the sensors that are on vehicles, right now, that's not data that you can just get, but imagine if at some point it's safe enough to be anonymously evaluated by an algorithm. So all of a sudden, anyone who, just like if you use Google Maps, you're helping Google.
Right.
Imagine if every car that drives down the road reports a pothole.
Right.
Yeah.
Which somebody's probably working on that.
Like, could I use like a backup camera and wire it to just run all the time? And
Well, I mean, a lot of
That's
cars
true.
have sensors that are like,
The
so
lane
over at
assist.
VTI,
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah.
some images, the stock Subaru EyeSight is actually one of like, it has a capability that's actually extremely good. They're limited in what they can do with it. But,
yeah.
I think Tesla, like the auto drive, I heard, like, I was watching car videos the other day and I heard that they integrated like a pothole detection. So, like, if you're on the highway and it senses like there's a dark spot, kind of like try and go around it and like slow down. I don't know. And they're kind of like their own thing that's all locked up. So maybe it'd be something interesting to like on open source, but
Just found a paper, smart pothole detection system using vehicle mounted sensors and machine learning.
that's cool. Yeah.
But the good news is, I mean, it's especially for master's pieces, it's not so bad to find something that's been done because you can you've got a platform to kind of spring off of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally fine for a master's. Like, read some papers, try to recreate it, tweak it if you can.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
It's when you're off on your own when you get things go wrong.
Yeah.
You don't have a good base. All right, Sam, you better hit it because we're going to run out of. You guys have Lopian, right?
No, it's
No,
not. It's not happening.
Oh, we got all the time in the world.
Not this week and not next week.
we might use it for
All right.
Yeah.
just to get over to the other side.
5 thesis ideas. short and sweet, but so essentially, the first two are like my solid ones that I've been kind of hashing out. The bottom three are like more my GeoInt, me just kind of exploring the realm, which I'll get to in a second. But so the first one, detection of tornado damage via UAS, visual entropy metric, kind of. So using drones and then maybe looking at the algorithms and like the detection of damage, I think is pretty interesting. Like we were kind of talking about earlier, it's kind of a mess with tornado damage in general, because someone has to go out there and kind of like get pictures of like someone's tarp that flew off their house, and then another house where the roof got peeled away, and then they have to kind of make a qualitative assessment on what the damage is. So I think there's kind of two realms where it's like detection of damage, but then also like quantifying damage. I think is interesting. When I was looking at that Landsat paper you sent me, just kind of brief. I wasn't able to get through it yet, but I was like scrolling through it, and it seems like kind of meteorologist viewpoint of damage is like it's hard going and doing on the ground assessments. And that paper kind of like sets it up so that maybe like taking Landsat imagery, right, and just kind of doing a qualitative like how much damage in like this month period, like kind of like climatology type thing, which isn't. I think it's cool, but that's kind of more the meteorology side of things. I like kind of more of how can we like observe and so detect damage and then identify it. I think that's really useful on its own. It has a ton of applications. And then the second one, it kind of jumps into satellite imagery. So using multispectral imagery to detect damage, it seems like a lot of damage is like human driven, or detection of it's human driven. I think it'd be interesting to kind of like develop a system in the future where it's just a passive, like satellite passes over and then just creates a polygon of what it believes is damage for an area. So maybe like that has kind of the potential for some machine learning applications. Also multispectral, what I think would help with the analysis instead of just doing the RGB photogrammetry for damage detection. I dipped into a little bit of this and kind of like the senior thesis type thing. I think it's interesting. It's just the data is kind of a pain. The Landsat resolution's that big, good, so it's usually bigger images, which is kind of what they need help on. Is like the large events where people think it's over just a ton or two, but it ends up being a lot longer because it's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And one of my buddies that works in insurance was telling me how NOAA just kind of puts out just raw like shape files and KMLs of where the damage kind of seems like it went. So there's not a lot of eyes looking from above. And then for the last three, I kind of wanted to go down the GeoInt route. And the GeoInt research, as I'm kind of finding more and more, is kind of a mess. I think a lot of people have different opinions about what GeoInt is. And like if you look up like GeoInt research, generally it's kind of like how can we practice GeoInt and more of like the communication of geospatial data sources and like that analysis. And one of the things I kind of came to is crime trending. So Esri and IBM have like crime prediction algorithms, and they kind of sell it as like we can predict crime in areas. And what I think is kind of interesting is like using that data to create kind of like when cops maybe should be kind of like where resources should be allocated. It's not so much trying to predict crime and like where the next crime is going to be. It's going to be kind of okay, where should we allocate these resources over time? It seems like that's kind of more of a kind of domain knowledge and kind of maybe a little bit more political. So like on the where the commander is, like where they want to put those divisions and stuff like that. And Chicago is a really good crime data source. I was thinking I reach out to those GIS. They have like intelligence analysts out there too. I think it'd be kind of interesting to chat with. The social media data mining for crisis situations, that was pretty interesting. It's a pretty hard problem, like just kind of monitoring, like extracting information about crises from social media. There's a lot of research, and I looked over some papers from like people in Penn State and Wisconsin in their geography departments doing it. But then I came across a paper of 3 electrical engineers using GIS to derive, like just using GIS social media data streams for crisis management. It was a little sloppy, the paper, and it was kind of annoying me a little bit because it was like 3 PhD students just kind of taking a crack at it. So I think there is some work in there, but it seems like a kind of tall order. And there's also kind of social aspects. There's a lot of like humanities type research on people's reactions to disasters. Then kind of one of the last ones, Josh was kind of got me thinking about like doing network analysis, but then applying that to contraflow and evacuation routes. A lot of the evacuation routes are set, and they just kind of turn them on as where they think that like a hurricane coming by, like, oh, the left side of Florida, right? We probably want to evacuate these areas. Here's like our go-to contraflow, which contraflow is when you shut down the other half of the highway and have it just all one direction out. So I think it'd be kind of interesting to see if there's like an area to develop like a model that where you can just have your polygons of where you think your hurricane's gonna come and then just switch on what the optimal route to evacuate those populations are. And then also you have to account for people coming into the storm, so like, or into the area, so like logistics and gas and the army when they go into the area because they need to set up shop. So you can't just have a model that just shuts down all the roads and has everyone leaving the most easy way possible, right? You need to have people coming in. So that's kind of my setup.
Feedback?
I think the first two are pretty cool. And also I really like number 5 as well. Especially when you're talking about adding in like the possibility of inflow instead of just outflow. So I would talk to, for number 5 at least, I would talk to individuals in logistics in the art, like Fort Lee Army Logistics University, talk to them about that kind of stuff for deployment and in that respect. So.
Yeah, the first two I was kind of thinking about like different thresholds of damage detection, like what differentiates logging versus a tornado damage or kind of that's kind of like that and the other, but yeah, just like what thresholds of damage constitute being viable or I guess you're talking on, viable, technical, all the above. And then the social media, I don't know, those like social media mining has always struck me as like, all right, like who after an earthquake is gonna tweet about it, like if they're like directly in it, kind of thing. Whereas like most of the location is based off where said social media is taking place. Or people talking about it from other places.
Yeah, I agree. One of the interesting things that I kind of like just been doing in my free time is like I have like a police radio app on my phone, and it has like a trigger that sets off like when a bunch of people are listening to our radio. Just kind of like word of mouth, people like jump on, oh, there's something weird going on in my city. I get a notification, but it doesn't tell you what's going on. So I'll jump on Snapchat and just look in the area, and you'll start seeing people around posting like, oh, there's a bunch of police response. There's a bunch of cops going to this one area. I don't know the impact of, I guess that is, it's just kind of more of like a reporting, like figuring out what's going on from an outsider standpoint, but there's like some interesting trends that people do.
Snapchat was used a lot in Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, and even with the Bahamas, I was looking at before a lot of the cell towers went out, there people were posting flooding. It looked pretty nasty before the storm even made landfall. So I'm like, yeah, it's not great.
Have there been papers written on Snapchat used for this stuff?
So I haven't looked in that specific realm. A lot of people go to is Twitter, which is the geolocation I kind of have questions about, because like if you tag like if you're at Virginia Tech, right? Oh, something happened, right? Tag Virginia Tech, it's just gonna put wherever it like maybe the center of Virginia Tech, right? Not directly in that building.
Well, it'll use often whatever your phone is finding for its. So it can tag it with GPS. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, the geolocations are maybe better than you might think.
Okay.
I've actually got a year's worth of Twitter data
Really?
logged. You want to sort of, it's
Yeah.
hilarious to look at.
Yeah. Even with the so the Snapchat, they just released the kind of beta version of their API.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, it felt calm and explain like why you want to use all that stuff. So if I had to guess, there's probably not a lot of research on Snapchat usage. These APIs just coming out.
So I think that's the most, to me, I mean, if taking social media data mining away from Twitter and towards something like Snapchat would be much more interesting.
Yeah.
Because Twitter's kind of been done, it kind of works. There's some caveats, like,
Yeah.
I feel like most of that ground has already been mined.
Yeah.
But Snapchat hasn't, as far as I know. I don't think I've seen one paper using Snapchat.
Yeah, I don't think they're quite as open as, like, Twitter's pretty open with how, like, downloading their data.
Right, yeah.
I think Snapchat keeps it
Yeah.
a little tighter.
Yeah, like
I've never once used, oh,
it's not open
I Snapchatted twice.
yet. Really?
Thank you. So how do you, like, so you said, like, there's a bunch of stuff, like, on Hurricane Harvey or whatever, like, how do you access that? Like,
So
just
like
a big feed and you can just, like, pull in whatever you want, or is it more connected? Like, you have to be a good person.
so like with the user interface, right? What people can do is they can like make stories of like what they're doing, right? But then you can post that to the public, and what they have is a map that you can hold up.
Like track friends through like a snap.
Yeah, that's another weird thing. But you can look up what people are posting. So there's hotspots. So if you go over to Richmond, right? Someone's being a Red Bull, right? And what's kind of interesting, and from like just kind of like my free time like tinkering, it's pretty fine, the resolution. Like they do kind of turn it down a little bit. Like back in DeKalb, like people would be posting like nefarious activities, right? So like selling drugs and all that stuff, and they would post on the Snapchat map. And what you do is you just keep zooming in, and you can actually find. So like my girlfriend that lives like she lived on the other side of DeKalb. You could see where people are posting and like selling illegal and doing illicit activities, right?
Wow.
And there's an apartment complex where like I just kept seeing people doing those illicit things. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. I think that's kind of like an application.
Look into the risk perception of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
other
yeah,
research topic. Seeking drug dealers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the GeoInt stuff goes, I think that's the most interesting to me, is trying to figure out how you can monitor that in an automated-ish way.
Yeah.
I think that'd be worth following up.
Have you looked into the Strava maps at all?
Okay.
Yeah, those are interesting.
Yeah. Is that the workout thing? And
Yeah,
wasn't it
yeah.
from the Department of Defense?
Yeah, it's a workout
yeah.
thing, and soldiers were posting like their running routes
Yeah.
around.
Military bases.
Yeah, and Strava has like a heat map of like the routes
Yeah.
people are running or biking and stuff. And so like you could just look up and see like where these guys are.
Yeah.
going
And
to their
wasn't
guys.
it too like you don't really want to leave the base, especially if it's in a weird area or if it's like quiet. So like people would run.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there were
So
like
you have a perfect
classified
polygon.
base
Yeah.
locations too that people were finding through Strava.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know the USGIF, as far as like GeoInt goes, they like publish a yearly like, all right, these are kind of research ideas
Yeah.
that we're looking for like broad topics. So that might be something.
Yeah, are you thinking about going to that conference in DC? The GeoInt?
The one
Whatever it
that's like
was.
soon.
Yeah.
I also like, yeah, that's kind of interesting. But then with like the funding from the department and it's like a 2-day event, it should be a lot easier to swing rather than a full week. I think it'd be kind of interesting. Like the titles from from the skip to academics, which I think that gap needs to be bridged. Because they do a lot of cool stuff. But
Did they release the speakers?
yeah, the director of Stacey Dixon, the director or the deputy director is going to be speaking. And then
But,
there's a bunch of people.
Yeah, but if you can figure out who from academia or whatever is speaking, then you can dig into their research a little bit and kind of see what they're doing. See if it makes
From like glancing over, it seems like a lot of industry partners too. So like the old NGA director Robert Cardello has his own group that he's doing whatever in there and stuff. So
Yeah, I think it's tricky to break into the GeoInt stuff.
Yeah.
But back to you.
So I think maybe all of these are interesting. More so on number 2 than number 1, but kind of grouping them together. I think someone else said defining damage so that you don't end up trying to if it works on the first type of damage, then expand. But like, I would be worried that you have too many things to compare. But multispectral resolution is really cool. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot you can do. The social media one, like we talked about that before. I have no idea what that would be like for pieces, but I think it's really cool.
I agree.
And Snapchat, like the difference between Snapchat and Twitter, people are a little bit, even though you see weird stuff on Twitter, people are aware that they're posting it publicly. Snapchat, people deliberately post it publicly, but they have like this mindset of, and it's like that subconscious sense of anonymity. You know, they feel anonymous.
Yeah, I don't think people can comment on it. So like when people post things, they're not getting a reaction from it,
Yeah,
which is weird. So like some people like kind of post like what they're doing, and then it's like, okay, what the value of that is, right?
Like they see that people are looking. They don't.
That one could also get tricky if you do it. It's a bit of a gray area for IRB because it does involve people, but it's also public. And generally, if you're doing research in public, like you can go to a public area and observe. Yeah, institutional review board.
Oh,
So anytime you're doing any research that involves human participants or animal participants, then you have to get approval because lots of people did lots of terrible, shady things in the past, and so now everybody's got to be. I don't know what it's like here at Virginia Tech. I've heard that I can look into that in a little bit and see.
Yeah, I'm doing some of it with Anna Maria, and I've been waiting a couple of weeks to get it added to one so I can, like with transcribes some interviews. But,
Usually there's a training. It's about a month to get approval for a project.
They did an overhaul of it recently, or overhaul, but
the training is pretty easy. It's just all online, like some quick stuff.
You have to learn some of the history, probably.
You learn some of the laws and like the standard like ethical procedures and stuff like that.
The only thing I can see is like if it's not open to like the public, right? And it's kind of like this beta version, there might be.
It's tough. I think we'd want to maybe have a visit and talk to some people about that.
Yeah,
my impulse is generally, if it's public, it's public. Like if the public flag is set, then it's just like being out in the park or at a baseball game or whatever, and you can kind of just, if you want to make notes about what people are doing, you're certainly not going to get waivers from everybody. Right? There's no real way to do that, and so
and you're not,
if it's public, I feel like that's fair game, but that's worth talking about. Some people
you're not experimenting. It's not like you're trying to influence.
Right.
Like,
There's
reaction.
You're not messing with the system. Whereas like if you were posting a Snapchat and like trying to get feedback, that'd be different because you're actually kind of trying to make happen. Whereas the other you're just a passive observer. All right. Did you have more? I only wanted to pipe in on that particular thing.
I mean, network analysis one's really cool. I don't really enjoy network analysis, but you can do really cool things with it. And that sounds like something that you could have an audience ready to go.
And if you were to do that, I could probably get you some contacts through the Army and some of the Department of Defense about how, like, whether it be DHS or something like that. You can talk to.
So 3 and 5, I think, are they're interesting. I just don't know that there's enough support for those topics in the department, which isn't a good thing. You don't want to do anything that you're not going to get. You want a committee and substantively advise you. And like, I wouldn't feel comfortable advising on crime trends. I don't know anything. I mean, I know GIS, but like, you'd really want to like get somebody who's an expert on using GIS on crime specifically. I think, and the same thing probably with network analysis. Like, you're doing network analysis with Bill, and so he might be better at that.
I mean, so he likes network theory. But I mean, so there are, I don't know, I don't want to encourage something different than whatever you're interested in. But I think you could find support, and then you might end up, a lot of the theory seems to be more varied in like transportation engineering, and even getting into like a lot of the base level stuff that I had to use, I would find in like supply chain, but like human psychology, like flow, like flow paths. So like when you walk into a building, how do you move? Why do you move
Yeah.
that way?
I know there's research on like when you take a lane and you put it down one that really produces like the flow.
Yeah.
So like when they design contraflow, they're always like it's got to keep. The second we bring it down one lane, like to allow for passage of like logistic vehicles for disaster response, it screws up everything. It really makes a headache.
in urban planning, they use that a lot for kind of to like some areas seem more appropriate for walking versus driving. They'll use lane width a lot.
Oh yeah.
To slow down vehicles.
Yeah, for that like the tighter the lane, the more pressure you have to stay within it.
Yeah,
so
and it
slow
makes,
down.
Yeah, if they want like an urban area to encourage a lot of pedestrian use, they'll shrink the lanes down.
Yeah, and highway lanes are really big, but you don't notice when you're going so fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
25 mile an hour is only 12-foot lanes. People speed like 12 to 15 foot. People speed.
Yeah,
That's
true.
I think 1 is a lot more interesting than 2.
Yeah.
1, I mean, obviously that's my favorite, but I think there's a ton of really interesting work there done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my favorite is 1.
I think number 5 is really cool. Something you could also go into is like risk perception.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when an evacuation is called, people don't do anything.
Yeah. That's really complicated.
Yeah, so like in South Carolina, we've had a couple of evacuations that were called probably too early. So people just didn't do anything, but like they reversed the lanes. So you just had like
open highway for
open highway, both sides of it, very little traffic.
Yeah.
And so obviously you don't have like problems with getting the first responders in and stuff.
Yeah.
With that, so that I think that could be interesting. Like what kind of triggers people to actually evacuate?
Yeah.
Because it's definitely not just the governor saying that you should. That really doesn't.
That gets like super messy too. Like a big one is when dogs are left behind. People like that's like the common image like there's a dog, just a poor dog in the middle of nowhere, right? And everyone like sort of pass a law criminalizing leaving dogs behind. But the problem doesn't really come like who does that? Not like crazy people leave dogs behind. It's poor people that don't have the ability to get the dog out. So like the state's not gonna evacuate a bunch of dogs and not have enough money for that.
Right.
So people have to decide stay or go on the gigantic transport bus with no dog.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of like a gamble. So if it's like really bad, like a third country, they just choose. Okay, let's hope he's still there when we come back.
Yeah.
So that it gets really messy with risk perception or like older families.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm gonna tough it out. I've lived here for 40 years. I'm gonna tough it out. So then like the siblings or like the daughter or the brother, or the son. I mean, like, okay, do we leave grandma and grandpa behind? Because they think that they can just fight it.
Or they're still there when we come back.
Yeah. Does mom go and the dad stay, or do we just keep the whole family and just kind of tough it out, just get some water? So that gets complicated.
And then with the first 2, putting like a price on the damage, like damaging it in terms of money lost.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I think corn pretty easily.
Yeah. Crop yield.
I think that's being done. If you're talking about crop damage assessment with
Yeah.
EAV, like they're doing area multiplied by dollar amount insurance claim.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I know recreational glider pilots are like paid farmers and like estimated crop loss when they have an out landing.
Is that like a sliding scale, the insurance claim?
I mean, I imagine it's just a trained estimator that because they don't like a lot of times if a farmer has like lodging, they can go ahead and cut everything, but they have to leave a certain amount of acreage, like strips, that show it was lodged, and then some evidence of the border. But they don't have to let it stand in their field until it happens. So they can harvest it and get whatever they can out of it, but they have to show something so that when that assessor looks at it, they just say, we have lodging. I can see that unless it was really sporadic, it covered 150 acres. Here's your payout. Like,
How much is 150 acres of corn worth?
I feel like I should know, but I don't.
There's also insurance to like how much you yield. you can get insured again. So like, say like it's a big storm, they're not even going to send up. They're just going to look at the numbers. Okay, this is how much we should expect you to yielded, right? This is how much you yielded. Here's your payout for the loss. It's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, it's that you could find stuff if that was your interest.
So did somebody say that they'd work with Todoist? That you said?
Yeah.
You think it would work as kind of like so if I've got things I want to be like, here's a thing for you to do, here's a thing for you to do. Is that going to work for that, or is it not going to work for that?
So they have projects.
Yeah.
And you can actually add people to projects, which I think is nice. So you could be on a lot of projects and put stuff on there. And then, I think it would work in that sense. I also like too that there's an inbox section, which I think it's labeled weird, but basically you can do like a mind dump. So like if you have something in your mind, you just need to write down quickly. You don't want to organize into one, like 10 projects. You just throw it on there, and then later you can sit down and go through it.
Yeah.
And you can rate the priority, which is kind of like I've been trying to do that. Rate how important my things are. I feel like that's kind of hard to do. To qualify, assess. And there's some things I like I gotta say that's really important, but like I gotta email this one person, but I also have to stop by and like do this other thing with another professor.
Yeah.
Like it's hard.
Well, ironing out the to-do list thing is on my to-do list. So I'll keep at that. All right. So when I'm gone, we'll still do regular meetings. Friday meetings will stay packed. I want to make sure that I'm meeting with everybody regularly. Every week or every other week, we can kind of feel it out and see whatever we think is necessary. But I want you guys to take the responsibility to set a time up with me. If you haven't done that yet, do that. My preference is probably Friday afternoon, just to kind of keep everything together and kind of see what you've been up to that week, and then we can have a little chance for some individual one-on-one time. I don't think those one-on-one sessions are going to need to be all that long. They might be as short as 5 minutes. It could be. I don't think they're likely to be any longer than 20 minutes or half an hour at the outside. So just enough to kind of whatever one-on-one time we need. We've got budget for that. Any other issues before I head out? Are we mostly set on lab logistics? Everybody's got access. And
in the case of like, I don't know, something stupid going on, like printer breaking or laptop or computer, you contact the department, or
contact me, I guess. Let me know. I should be pretty responsive to email. My plan is I'm basically full-time until the baby's born, and then I'm officially off. But
when about? Is it
October 4th?
okay?
So about a month, a little less. But grad students are a little bit different, so you guys are sort of the highest priority on the email chain. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. I don't really know what it's going to be like every day, but I should still be able to get back to you that day.
Yeah, I'm sure it's easy. Reviews.
No problem.
Yes, from family friends on
10 out of
It's
10
pretty easy.
The printer, yeah, that hopefully you won't have too many problems with it. I did want you guys to maybe just stick to using PLA until you get back, because the other materials are just finicky, and there's much more chance of something going wrong with those than if you just stick to PLA.
I just meant
try
like
not.
generalized.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the printer I just wanted to mention specifically. That's definitely the most likely thing to break. Things happen with it. They run fine 95% of the time, but it's not 99% of the time. Like they do have hangups. So my advice is just to be around them as often as you can if they're printing. Obviously, you're going to have to at some point not be around, but just try to minimize that and be. Most likely, it's going to wreck within the first 20 minutes. So definitely try to hang out for the first 20 minutes. Like that's where things mostly. Just keep an eye on it. Be careful with brakes. Anything else? Okay, I guess we're good. Jim, you wanted to talk to me?
Yeah.
Anybody else needed to talk to me today?
I can shoot you some time for
Yeah,
weekly stuff.
good stuff. Or
So
end
say
it.
like is
Let's
people
end the whole
already
meeting.
kind of walked blocked out time with you already.
Yeah, only Jack so far, so maybe we can just put it up on the board so that everybody kind of knows what the open spots are. Jack's at 1:30.
Okay.
The rest of the afternoon.